Hey everybody, and welcome to Research Methods number 1. My name is Alex, and I am going to be your professor this semester. You can see my name down here, but you can also see my face probably somewhere right around here. I can't see it, but I know it's recording. But anyways, welcome to our class. This is an online class, and it is asynchronous, which means you do not need to tune into Zoom. You do not need to log in at a specific time each week. You can totally take this on at your own pace each week. With that being said, there is going to be stuff due each week. This is not a class that you can I know some people do it like this, where you can just turn in assignments whenever you want to, and if you wanted to wait till the very end of the semester, you can turn it all in. This class is not like that. There is an expectation each week, and we'll go into that in this video. What this video is going to look at is what this course is about, what's going to be expected of you, and how to navigate things on Plato. So let's get into it. We got a lot to cover, but I'm going to try to do it in a short amount of time, effectively and efficiently, without being too boring about it. So I already mentioned a little bit about what we're going to be discussing, so let's get into what this class is about, because most of you, not all of you, but most of you are either first year students, sophomores, and maybe even a couple of juniors, but not a lot of seniors in this class. Most of us are pretty new to psychology as a major, and that is because this class, Psych 219, is meant to be one of the first few classes that you take. I know you've already taken Psych 101, you may have taken a couple of other classes, but this is going to begin what's called the research sequence. We'll get into that in a little bit. I wanted to start out with a quote here, and I love this quote from Zora Neale Hurston, one of the foundational American author, but this quote here, and so she was not a scientist, but this quote, research is formalized curiosity, it is poking and prying with a purpose. And I think that research oftentimes can feel a little bit boring because it feels like you're just searching for stuff. And that's true, we are searching for stuff, whether that be literature that we're trying to find, references for, or if we are doing our own research, we're being curious, we're trying to search for behavior, we're trying to search for the explanations for behavior. So I want us to keep this in mind as we go on, and as sometimes this feels a little bit like work, that what we're doing is we're being curious. We're taking that curiosity and we're finding a way to make it effective and to make it purposeful. So research, think of it as curiosity, and that what we are doing is we're kind of being nosy about behavior. We're trying to understand why people do the things that they do using these methods. So, like chemistry, like biology, like physics, like neurology, like whatever science you want to think about, psychology is one of those, and like those classes, we have to kind of get the basics down first. And this is true for every single science program you join. There's going to be one or two classes that are all about, okay, here's what the scientific method is, here's how we do research in this field. It's also true for criminal justice. Some of you may be a CJ major or double major, so you may already know about this. So what we're going to be doing and why we need this is that it's going to teach us how we can ask questions about human behavior, how we can understand what we observe from human behavior, and how we might predict what people are going to do because of that. We're going to learn how to separate truth from fiction and from misinformation. That's especially when it comes to human behavior. People are always giving you recommendations and advice and tips and things like that. Not all of it's going to be true, not all of it's going to be effective. This class is about how to find the useful information and all of that. And we're also going to be talking about how we can communicate ideas clearly and effectively, and that's not just scientific writing, that's just kind of all writing and all communication. And if you want to, we're going to learn how to do research on your own. But the reason why I put this in parentheses over here is because I know that not all of you want to do that. In fact, many of you do not want to do research whenever you graduate. I understand that because I was once like you, and I'll talk about this throughout the semester. But one of the fun things for me in kind of my journey to get here to be your professor right now is when I was a psych major, I had this very clear idea about what I wanted to be when I grew up, so to speak, and taking research methods was a turning point for me. And I remember in my sophomore year, it was the second semester sophomore year taking it, took it and it blew my mind, and I realized, oh, I love this stuff. This is a lot of fun for me, and it's really interesting to me, and I want to do this stuff. I want to do more of it. But I know that that's not the reaction that everybody has. And I'm going to keep that in mind as we move on, because I know that for most of us, we're just kind of doing these first four. We're really interested in human behavior. We may not be as interested in research, but that's okay. What we're going to learn this semester is going to help us understand these other four items here. So I mentioned the research sequence. Here's the basic pattern. If you don't know about this already, you may have already talked about it with your advisor. But basically, you've already completed Psych 101. That is, your introductory course. Next, we have Psych 219, and that is where we are now. We're going to be kind of fleshing out how science is integrated into our major, and how we can use it, how we can use science, how it helps us understand behavior. Then after that, which is probably going to be next semester for you, you'll take Psych 308, which is Statistics for Psychologists. So it's basically a statistics class. If you took elementary statistics as part of your core curriculum, then you have an idea of what to expect here. And then after that, so probably for you next year, spring of next year maybe, you'll have Research Methods 2, which is mostly kind of a hands-on writing class, actually. And whenever I teach that class, it's mostly just kind of, I very rarely lecture. It's mostly we get in groups and we do research together. So that'll be further down the line for you. And then it all kind of culminates your senior year in a capstone, and that can be your practicum, where you visit off-campus locations and do clinical work, counseling work, or you could even do your own research project, your own independent research project as your senior capstone, or maybe it's just another class that you take that's a high-level class, that's a senior seminar. Whatever the case may be, almost all of those are going to require these courses having been completed for your senior capstone, because usually by the time you get to your senior capstone, they're going to expect that you know how to do all these other things before you hit the ground running there. So that's where we are fitting into this. One fun fact about me is that I actually teach all of these classes, so I have some experience with all of them, and so I guess you can say I'm a research junkie, I guess. I don't know. I really like this stuff. And I really like stats, which is not true for everybody. Okay, so here are the learning objectives. If you look in the syllabus that is on Plato, you'll see a bulleted list of these things, and this is because our campus decided these are the 7 things eight things that our majors need to know whenever they complete Research Methods 1. So these are all the things that you should have completed and should have knowledge of whenever you leave this class. You should be able to see psychology as a science. You should know how to use psychological measurements, so how to use self-report, how to use behavioral tests, how to use physical and physiological measures. You'll know the difference between subjects and within subjects, experimental designs, what makes them effective, why they are important, when you would want to use each. Factorial experimental designs, so for the more complicated kind of experimental designs, how to interpret them, how to read them, how to understand them. Correlational designs, when to use them, what effectiveness they have, and what purpose they have in our major. And then these other two, also very important, how to conduct a literature review. You're actually going to be doing that a lot for the rest of your life, pretty much. If you're going to be doing any kind of mental health work, a lot of what you're going to be doing, you're going to meet people, meet clients whose background and life circumstances you may not be able to relate to, you may not understand, you may not have encountered before. And so doing a literature review to help understand that person's background or their symptoms or whatever their conditions may be is going to be something that you're going to be doing a lot throughout your life. So conducting a literature review is something we're going to learn here, something we're going to be using a lot in your other classes too, and how to design a study. And that's going to help a lot in the next parts of your research sequence. So let's get into some of the specifics of this course. Sorry, usually I'm used to teaching this in the classroom where I have a little bit of a break and I can take a sip of something because I can talk a little bit too much. And I also believe in taking little breaks between chunks of information. So I feel like we just finished one chunk of information before we begin this next one. I will mention, I forgot to mention this up top, that I haven't taught this class in 3 years, and I'm very excited to do that. It feels very strange that it's been 3 years, but it was actually spring of 2020. The last time I taught this was in person, and that was the year that COVID really hit, right? Spring of 2020. And so that class, we did like the first 8 weeks in person, and then basically they went out for spring break, and then we just had the rest of the semester online. But this isn't the first time I've taught it online, so I've really revamped this class to make it online friendly and to really prepare people for the next parts of their journey in our major. Alright, so let's talk a little about the textbook. I got good news about the textbook. The good news about the textbook is that it is free. You can download it, you can download it if you want to. You can access it totally for free online, legally, of course. It is an open access textbook, so it is no cost to you. It is written by these people, led by Carrie Cutler. This is a university in Canada, and that's why you'll see it sometimes referred to as the American edition, because they talk about measurements a little bit differently in Canada versus in the US. But like I said, it's free. It's a solid book. I like it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, it's effective. It's as interesting as a research methods textbook can be, but more importantly, it's free. Because these books can sometimes be like $200, and that's not fair. So I want to talk a little bit about the class expectations now, just to set you up for what to expect this semester. This class is not everybody's favorite class. I know that that my experience with this class as an undergraduate student is very different than most people. Most people don't like this class. And I know that because I teach the other classes, and I hear people say, oh, I didn't like Research Methods 1. I get it. I understand that. And I think that because I understand that, because I get that I can make this a little bit more user-friendly than maybe you're fearing. But I'm also hoping that my enthusiasm and my interest in this stuff will maybe rub off on you too. But just to make sure we're all on the level here and we all know what to expect, number one, there are a lot of assignments in this class. There's at least going to be 2 a week. In most cases, there's going to be 3 assignments a week. Sometimes 2 quizzes and a discussion. That gives you multiple grading opportunities. So don't think of it necessarily as punishment. Don't think of it as busy work or something that I'm just doing just so that you can spend time in this class. That's not why I have these assignments. Like I said, I've rebuilt this entire course in the 3 years that I've had away from it, and so everything that I'm doing in this class has a clear and specific purpose. And if you're doing something and you're like, I actually don't think this is all that helpful, let me know, and I can maybe let you see why or what my plans are for those assignments. So that's just to say that there's lots of grading opportunities, and it's not because I'm trying to punish you, it's because each component of this has some connection to the learning outcomes in our class. A lot of it is meant to be getting us thinking about the material in new and different ways. So thinking about how it applies to the real world, or thinking about how people in scientific circles and the scientific community have tackled these problems. But also, I want the questions here to be as fair as possible, but, and this is a really big but, there are going to be some nitpicky questions. And the reason why I'm highlighting that up front here, that there's going to be nitpicky questions, is because I don't like nitpicky questions, and I usually don't like to assign questions that are really detail-oriented. But the reason why I'm going to be doing that in some cases this semester is because research methods is all about learning how to pay attention to the details. That's not something that comes naturally to me, and so it may not be something that comes naturally to you either. That's okay. That's one of those skills that we're going to be sharpening throughout the semester. So like, for example, learning how many people were in a sample, or learning what controls did they use in their experiment, or learning how much of a laughing gas they gave their subjects, as part of the treatment condition. These are all things that are very specific, very detail-oriented, and that we also have to pay attention to as researchers. So, because I am a creature of habit, all assignments are going to have very predictable schedules. Basically, everything is going to be due Sunday at the end of the day. So Sunday before 11:59 p.m. You're going to have something due. Probably a quiz, probably a discussion. So that way, you can plan out your week accordingly. If you know that you get your work done better in the weekends, you can do it that way. If you get things done better in the weekdays, then you can do that too. All right, and I give this little pep talk to all of my classes here. I don't want this to be a me versus you kind of environment. Like, I do genuinely want every single person in this class to do really well. I want everybody in this class to make an A. That would thrill me, and I'd be so happy if that happened. However, I see myself as kind of like a coach, and basically it is my job to give you all the tools and all the training that I have learned and that I have seen to be effective so that you can go out on the field and that you can beat this on your own. I'm not going to be able to give you all the answers, right? Just like Bill Belichick is not able to step out onto the field, if we're thinking about football and the Patriots. I don't know what football teams y'all like, but probably the Patriots, right? So that's how I kind of see this, is that I want to give you the tools that I've learned and the tools that I've seen to be helpful and effective so you can ace this class, but I can't do those things for you. So, yeah, that's my little pep talk for that. In terms of office hours, this information you can find also on your syllabus, but generally speaking, I know that many of you, especially because it's an online class, don't normally meet up for office hours or whatever. You don't come in person because you're online. Some of you don't live in this state. That's okay. If you want to meet over Zoom, I'd be super happy to do that. I'd be very happy to meet over Zoom. And if these times don't work, and I know they don't work for a lot of you because some of you work during the day, that's why you're taking this online. If that's you and these times don't work, let me know and we can figure something out. I've met with people, and I don't want to do this, but I've met with people over the weekend. I've met with people as late as like 8 o'clock p.m., before an exam or something like that. So, I'll try to be there as best as I can for y'all. And actually, before our first exam, I'm going to give extra credit for anybody who schedules a Zoom appointment or comes by during office hours just to kind of talk. You can introduce yourself, so that way we're not so anonymous online. But I'll make that more formal later in the semester as the first exam gets closer to us. My office is in the main psych office, so if you are in person, if you've been on our campus, you got the greenhouse over here. You got the awesome science center down over here. I am in the front main office, so this area in here where you can find the department chair and our administrative assistant and all that, you can just find me at the very back, back there. So that's where you can find me. Let's talk a little bit about what's being graded here, and I am going to take a sip of something now. I got this as a joke. It's a comically large straw. I got it to make my wife smile because I thought it would be funny. So if you're wondering, did Alex have a giant straw on that video? Yes, I did. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the grades. Oh, sorry, I realized this. Don't pay attention to this right here. This was something I tried to make and it didn't work out, and I accidentally included it in the PowerPoint. Here, basically everything is going to break down into 20% of your final grade. That makes it easy to remember and easy to calculate. So that means our exams, we have two exams, that's in total going to be 20% of your final grade. Your chapter quizzes are going to be 20% of your final grade. Your online discussions, 20% of your final grade, and so on. So let's talk about what each of these things are. So we talked about the exams. There are only 2 of them. Usually I like to have a lot of exams, but because we have a lot of chapter quizzes and research article quizzes, I'm only going to do a midterm and a final. And you see that they don't weigh that much, actually. They're only 10% each, which is not that much of your total grade. But they're going to be 20 multiple choice, 5 short answer questions, and you can complete them in 90 minutes. And yes, that's pretty much that. Nothing exciting. It's going to be over Plato. And for everything in our class, the first attempt is the one that counts. It doesn't matter if you do it multiple times. It's only the first one that counts towards your final course grade. I'll give you more details about these exams as they come up, but generally speaking, anything is fair game on these. Anything that I talk about in the lecture videos, that's in the textbook, that's in the research articles that we've read, all those things could be fair game. And I'll give you a study guide if that would be helpful before the first exam about what to expect and what you should know going into it. Next, we have the quizzes. The quizzes are going to be online pretty much every week. Not the first week, but they're going to be due every week, and they're going to cover a chapter. They're going to be due at Sunday at the end of the day. And my hope is that you read before you open up these quizzes. You'll have an hour to do these quizzes, and there are only 12 multiple choice questions. So if you wanted to, you could probably open up the textbook and the lecture slides together and try to, very quickly find and scan through to find this stuff. But that's risky. You're likely to run out of time. And also, it doesn't set you up as well to do good on the quiz or on the exam later on. What we know, so my background is I'm a memory researcher. My dissertation was all about memory. So I know a thing or two about how to retain information. And you know this too, that the best way to retain information is to be exposed to it multiple times. So I would highly recommend reading through first, watching the lecture videos second, and then doing the quiz. Not trying to do it all at once. And you have an hour to do all that. Next is the discussions. Those are also going to be due Sunday at the end of the day. A lot of these are going to be open-ended questions. Sometimes you're going to have little cognitive tests to do there, but a lot of times you're also going to have research articles that you're going to be responding to. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to start reading an article a day. And they're going to be short articles, but we're going to read them, and usually what I'm looking for in your discussion is what was your personal reaction to this article, and then you'll have a space to answer some targeted questions I give you about those, such as what did you think about the internal validity of this article and things like that. So you get full credit if you provide a thoughtful post and a thoughtful response to a classmate. So each time you do the discussion, you have to do one post and one reply. In your reply, I don't want to see stuff like, oh, LOL, me too, or, oh, wow, it's so interesting, I never thought about it that way. Because, look, I get it. I know whenever you're responding to a student, it doesn't always feel like the most exciting thing, but I have found that the more work you put into trying to engage with somebody else's post, where you really think about what they say, or if it's different, not just saying like, oh, haha, you really changed my mind on that. Say why. Say why you found it interesting or why you disagreed. It's okay to disagree on these things. So if you want to know what it takes to make a full perfect grade on these discussions, there's a rubric that I posted on Plato in the syllabus and rubric section where you can find what it takes to make a perfect score on your discussion there. The research quizzes, there's going to be 8 research articles that we read together, and so we'll be doing these across 8 separate weeks that are all kind of in the middle of the course. So they are going to be 12 questions, 6 multiple choice, 6 fill in the blank. You'll have an hour to complete them as well. But these are going to be very specific and very detail-oriented because that's what I mentioned. We're going to be really kind of refining our ability to pay attention to detail. So you don't want to just open up the research article and the quiz at the same time. You want to at least read the article once before you take the quiz. And hopefully even take a couple of notes while you're reading the first time through, because it'll help you on your discussion and it'll also help you on this quiz. It's also really helpful to have the article with you whenever you're taking the quiz too. You don't want to just try to do all that stuff from memory. I don't want you to do it from memory. I want you to have the quiz next to you whenever you're taking that. The final research paper, I'll talk more about that as the semester goes on, but basically you're going to create your own research proposal. So basically you'll come up with a research question, come up with some methods on how to test that, and explain what you expect to find. I will tell you more about that as the semester moves forward. it'll be due at the end of the semester. If you require any kind of accommodations through Binaco Center, just let me know. I'm happy to work with you on those things. There are no makeups in this class, so if you miss something, it's just incomplete. Everything you're going to have here is going to be basically 2 weeks in advance. So right now you'll see that Chapter 1 is available to you, but Chapter 1 is going to be due for next week. So if you wanted to, you can get an early start on all of the assignments in our class. If there's an emergency and there, like something is due the next day and you have a kidney stone, let me know so that way we can work something out and that way it doesn't penalize you. There's zero tolerance on plagiarism and on plagiarism here. I don't want to have to be too harsh on this, but last semester alone I had to fail 2 students from a class because online they had shared some responses to something and turned it in together as their own separate work, and they both failed because of that. So if you are worried about plagiarism, if you're doing a short answer response or doing something on a discussion, if you're worried about plagiarism, the best thing to do is either email me and let me know, say, hey, I'm worried about this, it looks very similar to this other thing, but I promise you, that it's, that I did my best to make it different or whatever. That's one thing to do. Or maybe even better is to cite the source where you got it from. One of the things we're going to be doing this semester is talking about why it's so important to cite your sources and to be transparent and to be clear and stuff like that. So it's okay if you find a short answer response on a different web page for the exam. Let me know what web page you got that from, because if you don't, if you just kind of go with what that web page had, then that's going to be a 0, and I don't want you to make a 0. I want you to, if you give me that response and you put it in your own words and you say, oh, by the way, I wasn't trying to plagiarize, this is where I got it from, that's okay. Citing your sources is what all good scientists do, so it's totally okay. All right, and the last thing I'll mention before I take you really quickly through Plato is for the first week, the only thing that you really have due is going to be an introductory discussion prompt. You can find that on Plato. Speaking of Plato, let's find that now. So let's see if I can find. All right, you should be able to see this. I'm not exactly sure what you can see on your end. Actually, let me just make sure. Yeah, you can see enough. Okay. All right. So this is what you see on Plato. There are no announcements yet. There will be by the time you get this video. But you can see most of the important things over here on the left. You got your course calendar that lets you know what things we're covering, when those dates start, and also what assignments are due. So you can see for the first 3 weeks, we don't have any research articles, but starting on week 4, we're going to have a research article and a research quiz to accompany that. So for this week, we don't have anything due, but we're going to soon with quiz 1 and discussion 1. So what would that look like? If you click on chapter 1, you'll see that stuff here. So discussion number 1, so after this chapter, what are your personal feelings about research? So you'll kind of respond to that there. There's a quiz here. You can find the lecture slides. I always post the lecture slides online. They look a little bit like this. So you can find that there. If you wanted to find the course book, you can just click on online ebook. That takes you right over here. There's multiple ways that you can, if you wanted to have a hard copy, you can find it here. But if you wanted to do a PDF, so you can download it and put it on your phone, you can do that. If you just wanted to read the book, you can do that also using your mobile device if you wanted to. I'm going to be recording lecture videos for each of these chapters, and I'll post them at the bottom here. So basically those lecture videos are going to walk through the lecture slides and kind of explain the significance of those things. So so that's pretty much it. In the syllabus and rubrics section, I'm going to be putting this video right here on this section that says coming soon. But you can also find the syllabus here that I refer to frequently, and also the discussion rubric, which I also mentioned today. You can find that there too. You can find your grades here. I try to stay current with grades. You'll want to pay attention to your current average. That'll let you know where exactly you stand in the class at any given moment. And the Contact Me page just lets you know how you can get best in touch with me. The final thing I'll mention to you is that a much better reach through email than through Plato's native inbox. So the Plato messaging system is not very good, as you know. It's really ugly. It's hard to send attachments. The best way to reach me is just through my my Westfield email, which you can find right here. Is tdaniel@westfield.ma.edu. I think that's it. So I clicked on all these other things, and so yeah, that's pretty much the whole class. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm sorry that we spent so much time doing this, but I hope you have a great first week. And if you have any questions or just want to introduce yourself, you can feel free to email me. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. See you later. Bye, everybody.